Today I'm going to show you a card using one of my favorite new stamp sets called Wetlands. This stamp set I like because I can do some watercoloring with it, and also I can make some nice masculine cards with this. So I went ahead and stamped the goose on some watercolor paper, which hopefully you can see that texture of the watercolor paper in here. I stamped this with black StazOn ink, and I always use StazOn when I want to watercolor because it's permanent and I know that it won't bleed into the color won't bleed into my image. So I also have a piece here of chocolate chip, and then the card base is crushed curry. So actually I am going to start with the card base. Let's go ahead and fold this. The card base is 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And what I want to do to begin is take this image, the grass image, out of the stamp set, and this is crushed curry ink also. And what I'm going to do is just a tone-on-tone border across the back here. And I'm just going to continue all the way across, like that. And I'm going to leave this ink out. What I did, you can see my mess on the lid there. What I did is when it was closed, I squeezed it together, got some ink here, and this is creating a palette. So this top part here is what I'm going to use as the palette to pick up some of the ink to do watercoloring. Same thing with Tangerine Tango, squeeze it, and then when you open it, you've got a mess on the lid there to use. So I am using today one of our aqua painters. And what I'm going to do, just squeeze a little bit to make sure I've got some water flowing there. I'm just going to swirl it in here. When you watercolor, you can always go back and add more color. You don't ever want to start too dark. So I'm just going to color like this. It's almost like a little paintbrush on the end of this aqua painter. The barrel of the aqua painter right here, this part twists off. You fill the barrel with water. Super easy to use and reuse, easy to refill. I'll squeeze just a little bit more water out here. And that's why I use watercolor paper also. It's more absorbent, it can handle more water. If you use regular vanilla cardstock, it might curl up a little bit more than what you want. So I'm just getting a base of the crushed curry here. Now I want to go back and just pick up a little bit more ink and kind of add, more up here. So I want to start lighter on the bottom, make it a little bit darker as I go up here to this border line I've created. And you could just play with this all day. No matter how many of these you make, each one is going to end up looking a little different. So when I'm done with one color, I swipe it like this. You can see that it comes out clear eventually. The tip might end up being a little bit discolored, but as long as it swipes clear, you're good to go. So now I'm going to pick up some tangerine, and I'm going to start right here in the middle where I left off with the saffron, or excuse me, the curry, and then go back to the top. And I want to add, that's it. This to me is just fun, just to see how you can change things just by adding a little bit of the color. And then I want to make that line less obvious where I blended, so I'll just kind of pull some of that color down. And you'll notice I'm going right over the goose. It makes it a lot easier rather than trying to, go around it and just color up to it like that. I'm just going right over it. Okay, swipe this one till it comes out clear. You can see this is just slightly discolored with that tangerine. Okay, now I'm going to grab a couple other colors of ink, and depending on how much water you use as you're watercoloring, you might want to give this a little bit of drying time. But it's, it doesn't take too long to dry. Even just waving it like this helps dry it a little bit. So I'm going to use some wild wasabi. Same thing, squeeze it, make a mess on the lid. If this mess freaks you out a little bit, just take a paper towel when you're done and clean it up. It used to freak me out a little bit, but I got over it. Okay, so I'm just going to go back over these lines and add some color. You can see it's kind of bleeding out a little bit. And if this was totally dry, it would stay more defined on those lines. But that's what's nice about watercolor too, is that it doesn't have to be, you know, color in the lines kind of thing. Okay, swipe it. And then the last color I'm going to pull in is chocolate chip. Ooh, this one's got a big mess going on. And this I'm going to just go over the body of the goose here. And you can see, even though I did that color underneath, it doesn't, you know, affect it or make it look odd or anything. It's just a whole lot easier rather than trying to go around those lines when you're coloring. Put some down here. And like I said, if you let it totally dry, it wouldn't quite bleed into the other color so much. I can go back and add some darker for here. And again, just anytime you watercolor, just play with it, see what you come up with. So I want to show you the finished card. This one I've done before. Ooh, it seems to have a little bit of glitter on it from a different project, must be. So you can just see when it dries a little bit, you know, how different the appearance is. So just to compare those. And then I just tore the edge right here and layered it with a piece of chocolate chip cardstock. So lots of fun. Like I said, every time you watercolor, you're going to get a different look, but it's always fun to play with. Thanks so much for watching. For daily creative inspiration, visit my blog or find me on Facebook at Jodi Reinert Stamps.